Hey there. Welcome to Raw Encounter Podcast, the show where we break down all things like sex, relationships, and even intimacy without the fluff. I'm your host, Darren, and today we're going to get real about something we all struggle with but can't avoid: vulnerability. Ooh, y'all ready? So, what does that really mean to let your guard down with someone? How can it deepen your relationships or scare you off? In this episode, we're digging into raw, unfiltered truth about roles of vulnerability in relationships. First topic we're going to talk about, because everybody want to know. Even if you do know, or maybe you don't know, I'm going to still educate you. What is vulnerability, right? Before we dive into roles of vulnerability and what it plays in relationships, let's talk about what vulnerability actually is. See, when we think of like being vulnerable, we often like imagine weakness, fear, or being exposed to harm. But in reality, it's the opposite. At its core, vulnerability means being honest about who you are, our fears, our desires, our emotions, without pretending or feeling like maybe somebody gonna judge you. It's the willingness to be seen even when you're unsure of others and how they react. It's about like putting down the armor that protects us from judgment or rejection or heartbreak and being able to just genuinely just be yourself. Once you be able to do that, it's going to be so many doors open because the first thing somebody going to say is, well, I'm afraid, the apprehensive part, but the willingness to do it is different. So why vulnerability matters in a relationship? We're going to talk about why it's crucial for relationships, especially relationships. And I'm saying it again because I want you to hear this. It deepens the emotional part. Like true intimacy isn't about just physical sex, closeness. It's about openness when you have that emotional intelligence with one another. When you like let your partner into your inner world, it strengthens trust. You stop performing or pretending and start being real with yourself. That's authenticity. And that creates a bond that goes beyond surface level attraction. It builds trust. It builds like that backbone of lasting like relationships and vulnerability. One of the most like direct paths to creating it, having that. When you share like your insecurities, your dreams, your mistakes, you signal to your partner that you trust them with the raw parts of you. Raw encounters. That was fun. When that's reciprocated, flourishes. It also resolves conflict. Vulnerability is like essential when like resolving conflict instead of like reacting defensively or shutting down. I used to be that person. Just sitting back thinking about that. I used to be that person that used to be that way. And now I'm like, no, we not doing that. We gonna talk about it. So being vulnerable allows us to express how we really feel beyond anger or frustration. That kind of communication opened the door to healing and growth rather than letting resentment build. Like you just letting it build up. You gotta let yourself say, hey, you know what? Let me get some clarity. Let me feel safe. Why we avoid vulnerability? It's so powerful. But why do we avoid it? Vulnerability is really like the main thing to have. I want to unpack a few reasons, and this is something I'm sharing for myself. Fear of rejection. No one gonna like you. No one, want to feel exposed or rejected. The fear of not being accepted for who you truly are keeps many of us from opening fully, especially in romantic relationships. Like you don't want to open up because you don't know how it's gonna be. It could be past hurt or trauma. If you've been hurt before, whether if it's like a breakup, betrayal, or even childhood experiences, you just never know. Being vulnerable can feel dangerous. You don't want to be hurt again. So you put all the walls up to protect yourself. The culture, the media. We live in a world that sometimes equates vulnerability with weakness, especially for us men. I can definitely go into that. See, both my granddaddies, rest in peace, they were taught to keep it together or stay strong. Feeling deep is often seen as a flaw, but in reality, vulnerability requires strength than staying like closed off. It requires that strength, and people don't understand that strength part. Like, and I feel so good about myself because I never thought that I could get to this point. So I got some practice tips to embrace vulnerability in your relationships. Okay. So we all know vulnerability is important, but how do we practice it? It's different. So here are a few ways to start being more open to your relationships or just in general, just yourself. Start small. Like vulnerability doesn't mean you're spilling deepest secrets immediately all at once. Start small, like share something like personal, like fear or like a goal, or see how like your partner responds. See, I feel like the more practice that you have, the more naturally it will feel. Be honest about your emotions. If something is bothering you or something is on your mind, don't bury it. Instead of saying, "Oh, I'm fine, I'm all right." Well, you know you not. Express like how you truly feel. That kind of gives that person more honesty for the conversations and it deepens the understanding for one another, especially like from your partner, you know? Because once they have that, they feeling comfortable. And then the more you get comfortable with each other, the better. Embrace your imperfection. We often avoid vulnerability because we're scared to show our flaws, right? But real connection don't come from perfection. In fact, when we let go of the need to be perfect, we embrace so much more. We open up space for deeper love and connections. Like, create that safe space, encourage vulnerability in them, have them conversations like once a month, making it safe for like both of you all. That way, y'all feel comfortable with one another. You're going to be able to open up. You're going to reassure them that they won't be judged for their feelings. And you will be that active listener when they're sharing rather than just judging. You don't want to do that. You want to be there for them. Support your partner. If you know anyone that needs to hear this, please send it to them. And here's the payoff of being vulnerable. When we embrace vulnerability, we allow ourselves to experience like deeper, more fulfilling relationships. It's not gonna always be easy. I'm not saying that it is. And it's definitely not always comfortable, but it pays off. You will notice stronger emotional bonds. Your connection with your partner will grow when you both feel safe to be yourself. A lot of relationships tend to fail because of that. More authenticity, being yourself, being more, vulnerable. It leads into like a relationship built on honesty and acceptance, where both partners love each other for who they truly are. It also helps with better communication. See, when you're vulnerable and you express yourself more clearly, you're more willing to hear your partner than to shut down, than to leave, than to just say, forget it, I'm fine, I'm good. This like leads to fewer misunderstandings, because it can be that, and more meaningful conversations. If you can do that, you will be awesome. I know it's hard, but you got this. And that's what Raw Encounter Podcast is for. We gonna help each other and we gonna get through this together. Okay? All right, okay? I want to hear you say it, okay? Cool, cool, cool. That's a wrap on today's deep dive into vulnerability. Remember, being open is scary, but it's also where the magic happens in any relationship. If today's episode hit home, go ahead and hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Thanks for tuning in to Raw Encounters, where we can keep it real about relationships. Until next time, stay bold, stay vulnerable, and keep those connections strong. You will do good. I'll catch you soon.